Finally, I think one of the most important things is to buy expensive things or buy cheap things and do not buy the in-between thing, in my opinion. So that means buy the thing that's going to last you your entire career or buy the cheap thing that is essentially disposable until you can buy that expensive thing. Because if you end up buying the middle of the road thing, like let's say, like recently, I was looking at gimbals. We keep talking about gimbals. The reason why I always talk about gimbals is because I don't own a gimbal. I've thought about buying a gimbal a million times over, but it's a lot, but it's never, and I've come very close, but it's never lined up with the right shoot. I've never been able to like justify paying it off. The only way I'm going to buy something like that that's really expensive is if I know that I'm going to use it all the time and it's going to pay itself off. Gimbals are so widely available now, it's never going to pay itself off. In my opinion, a gimbal is a great investment if you want to shoot music videos forever. Low budget music videos forever, which is fine. But if you're shooting high budget music videos, eventually you're going to start renting stuff. You're going to be renting cameras that are too big for your gimbal. Not saying gimbals are always a bad thing, but I just haven't been able to justify it in the type of work that I do. If I were to buy a gimbal right now, something that has like the weight limit for my camera, I would have to spend a fair amount of money. Like I'd have to spend like $1,200, let's say, like 12 to $1,300 if I wanted it, like just the gimbal. Something that's going to go with my camera that I could feasibly use on other sets. The likelihood of me paying that gimbal off is so low because I just know the types of the types of shoots that I get, which is mostly, at least the ones that pay well, are mostly commercial and corporate. And then they're not going to pay. I don't need the gimbal for those. I know that I don't need the gimbal for those. And then when it comes to productions that I work on as a camera assistant, which is like another one of my bread and butters, they are shooting on things that are way beyond any kind of gimbal that I would afford on my own. Like I'd have to own like a Ronin-SC, which is how much? Like $50,000, maybe $30,000, $20,000. It's very, very expensive. So buying a gimbal in my world, it's like, it doesn't make any sense. I would have to buy a really, really cheap gimbal that the cost would not affect me at all. Whereas I could buy it and not have to think about paying it off, and it would just be a personal use gimbal. Or I'd have to buy the really, really expensive gimbal that I know people are going to rent. Because if I buy a middle in the road one, it's going to be a lot of money for me personally. I'm not going to use it very often, just knowing my own workflow.
It's not going to rent.
And it's not going to rent because people are either going to rent the really, really high one or they're going to own their own cheap one. So that is something really to consider when you're buying gear, is like, buy expensive, buy something that's as future-proof as possible. It's always best to buy up. I know it's easy to say, buy expensive things and you'll be successful. But really, like, it really is the difference between like saving up for like a few months or even half a year versus buying it right now. You're better off renting right now, unless you know you're going to use a lot.